what do we understand by silence? What is it to be at peace? Isn't silence or peace the same thing, or are they different? What is our definition of silence? Usually, when we say, when we think of silence, we think of quiet, a noise free place, somewhere where there is no noise. That is our understanding of silence. And same with peace. We say where there is no violence, where there is no conflict, where there is no situation of war, we think that there is peace. And so, is the absence of one thing a guarantee of the presence of the other? If there is no noise, is there really silence? Or does it automatically imply a presence of silence? If there is no conflict, does it also imply that there is peace there? Our superficial understanding of silence and peace might not be totally true, or it does not convey the whole picture, the whole essence of what silence is, or the whole essence of what peace is. The way we understand silence is only in terms of noise, and similarly the way we understand peace is only in the context of war. Is there something more deeper, more vast implication of silence and peace? Do they only represent or can be understood against the context of noise and violence, or they have their own context? And if there is a context which is completely of silence, which is completely of peace, how is one to understand that, or how is one to identify that? Our idea of silence might not be what silence really is. Our idea, our imagination of what peace is, our current definition of what peace is, may not really what peace really constitutes, because these two things have to be something have to mean something more than just the absence of their opposite. And so it is entirely possible that one, amidst a whole lot of noises, can be really silent within. It is possible that one is speaking and that speech can be an expression of the silence within. It is entirely possible that one is amidst a fight but deeply peaceful within, and it is that peace itself that has become the source, has become the potency of the fight that one finds oneself in. And so silence and peace are not something that can be a subject of our senses. Silence cannot be something only of the ear. Peace cannot be something only of the brain, of a mental thing. Peace cannot be a mental thing. They both, silence and peace, cross or go beyond the outward perception, the sensory mode of perceiving things, because a deep silence within only can make noise outside that is really deep and meaningful. And the other also, if they are listening attentively, can see or perceive the silence with which the one who is in silence is speaking, because what they are essentially communicating is not just words, it is the silence through words that is being communicated to the other. And it appears a little odd that one can actually convey silence, but if one has silence within, it is somehow possible to convey what it looks like. What is conveyed might not be entirely silence, but it would have the essence, the fragrance of the silence that is within. And so peace cannot be just a matter of words. If we are to look at the opposite, silence cannot be a matter of noise, a matter of words. You cannot limit or circumscribe silence within the field of noise or words. we would hear that we would often hear that somebody conveyed peaceful words to the other. Are words really peaceful, or it is the quality of peace within that makes those words peaceful? And even when we talk of peaceful words, we have a certain idea of what peaceful word looks like. Someone could be actually really conveying the essence of peace without even uttering the word peace, without even uttering the so called vocabulary which involves peace, because silence and peace cannot be constrained within a particular set of words. It is only through a silence within then that one can really put up a meaningful fight, that one can really strive towards a real revolution. Because if a revolution only has a certain set of principles which are at the end of the day only words, from the offset alone that revolution has failed, because it has agenda and its agenda is just words. There is no quality or a deeper point of that revolution. If the revolution has to be meaningful, it has to come from this source, which is silence, which is peace. And it is only such a revolution that can bring actual peace, that can instill real deep silence within us. We have pictures, ideas. We like to imagine that, there is a certain way how a peaceful man looks or how a silent man acts. All of these are again outward pictures, outward signs that we have imagined or labeled as silence and peace. But it is absolutely possible that one may not have even one of those signs that we think of when we think of a peaceful man, or when we think of somebody who's silent. They may not have even one trait of the picture of the silent man that we have in our head, and still they can be really actually silent, that one can really have a peace within without the outward signs through which we identify peace in somebody. One really can scream, speak at the top of their voice, and to the ordinary eye it would look like, no, there is no way that this man is silent, that this person is really peaceful. But that's the thing, that we have pictures about what looks like, what peace looks like. We have pictures about what silence looks like. Silence and peace are not a thing of pictures, of imagination. You cannot label or create a structure, a framework around how peace looks like, of how silence looks like, the person could really be speaking at the top of their voice, but what they are speaking and the words and where the words are coming from is, that source is silence itself, peace itself. But because the ordinary eye only understands silence and peace in the context of noise and conflict, it would not be able to identify what the real thing actually is, or rather it would label, the ordinary eye would label the really silent man as someone who is noisy, as someone who is difficult to deal with, as someone who is problematic, as someone who is not friendly, as someone who is even rude, because the ordinary eye has ideas through which it identifies the real thing, and so all its ideas, all its efforts and attempts to identify, to look for peace and silence fails. Because the really silent person, the really peaceful human, does not subscribe to these outward pictures, to these outward images that we have made of peace and silence. And in fact, a really silent man would be problematic, would be difficult to deal with, because we within ourselves are a noise, we within ourselves are conflicted. So when we really come face to face with what real peace is, we would find that we are in conflict with peace, because our whole identity is of an inner conflict. Our whole inward life is a noise, and when it sees silence, when it comes in contact with real peace, it resists, it finds it difficult to deal or to be around the real thing, because the real thing would cut through the noise, the conflict within. And when the real thing is cutting through the noise, the conflict, it feels like it is cutting through us, because we are in complete identification, in complete attachment with our own noise, with our own inner conflict. What we have in the name of identity is a perpetual state of war within. And when real peace comes to us, we end up only resisting it, we end up only creating a wall of defense against it, because we think that this state of inward conflict, this state of noise within, is at least familiar, although we may not like it, but at least it is familiar. And then this familiarity, and then we end up choosing this familiarity over what is new, what is unknown to us. Peace, and we forget that what is really unknown to us is real silence, is real peace. We really do not know what peace actually is, what silence actually is. We don't have the slightest idea of what it feels to be really deeply silent within. And because we don't have it inwardly within us, we do not know what it looks like outside, and when the real thing comes in, we project our images of silence, of peace, and then that image, when that image does not tally with the real thing, because the real thing does not follow any code, does not go by any image that we have in our head, and so when they do not tally, we end up completely denying that, or defending ourselves from it. In our attempts to defend ourselves from that which is unfamiliar, we end up in the arms of the same old familiar state of conflict and noise. Because the unknown is not really unknown to us. We have multiple images, multiple ideas of what peace is and what silence is. Because peace and silence are really, at their core, are unknown. You cannot know what silence is, you cannot know what peace is. It comes to you. We think that we can just limit, bound, create a certain idea, a box around what peace is and what silence is. So in the name of silences, what we end up having is awkward silences, silences that one addresses when someone has passed away, and so on. That is how we come to know silence. In the absence of sound is how we think, is where we think that silence stays, the silence stays. That when there is no noise, there is silence. Then silence becomes a matter of senses to us. That which we cannot hear becomes a silence. Silence is really of the heart. Peace is really a quality of life. It is an inward quality. It has nothing to do with the states of the conditions or the situations of the outside. And when there is this inward quality within us, we would find that there is peace outside too. When there is this silence of heart within, we would find that there is a beauty, a sense of wonderment in the life that we live. Silence is essential to think clearly, to see clearly, to really observe without the observer coming in, without the biases of the one who is observing. Interfering with the thing that is observed. Silence is essential for that quality of observation. Silence is essential to think clearly. And when all we have is an inward noise, multiple voices that stretch us from all corners, our thinking is polluted, our observation is flawed, our speech is artificial, everything about us would be gimmicky, would be polished in artificialness. There would be a constant made up artificial quality in our speech, in our thinking, in our ideas, in our observation. Without this silence, without this depth of peace within, we will find that all our outward expressions are polluted. Everything that we touch, lay our hands on, would have the mark of the noise, that of the conflict that is within us. So this silence becomes an essential of life. Just as food, water and clothing are essential of the physical body, the silence is the essential thing inwardly to our conscious. For consciousness to really be free and loving, there has to be peace within. Because without this peace, without this silence, what we have on our hands is a mess, would turn into mediocrity. And in fact, this silence and peace has a direct correlation to that which is excellent. Excellence is deeply related to this inward quality of silence, to peace. It's on the boots of silence and peace that one treads on the path of excellence. Of beauty. And without knowing oneself, without going into the mess, the noise, our daily conflicts, we cannot come upon that which is actually silent, which is really peaceful. That is the source of all greatness.